my friends, I'm Sally and today I'm back, and if you're wondering what that introduction was, it was the introduction of the institution that I'm now officially partnered with. They're called Age of Gaming, and they sort of focus a lot more on smaller YouTubers. Their networking base isn't that huge yet either, but that's not an issue. I don't even plan on gaining any money from it at the moment because my channel is nowhere near big enough to get any sort of income. And yeah, so that's the good news I have. I'm now officially partnered as a channel. And yeah, so let's dive straight into this commentary. In the background, you're going to be watching a Capture the Flag game on Raid. I was playing with my friend Nick, or Domino, and yeah, we ended up going off. We ended up winning 10-0 because the team just forfeited because they just rage quit because of how well we started off. And yeah, that's not important. What is actually important is today's commentary. It's actually a funny story. Happened to me a few years ago, and I tried one of these out before, but it didn't go too well, and that's just because it didn't actually turn out to be that funny, in my opinion. I thought it was hilarious at the time, but the way I commentated it made it sound extremely boring, and yeah, so I thought I'd give this another try with an even better story. And yeah, so basically, I was about 14 years old, and because of my height, I looked like a really vulnerable child. So I was getting the train home after school, as you do, and I noticed there was a guy in front of me. Well, I was on the train, and I looked out the window on the train, and a guy was staring at me, and I had a really bad phone at the time. It was like a Vodafone phone, an actual phone made by the company Vodafone, who normally just do network. And yeah, so you can imagine it was pretty bad. And I noticed he was looking at me kind of weird, but I didn't think anything of it, at the time. I just thought it was kind of strange, but I ignored it. So I carried on my train journey, and I got off at my normal stop, and everything all seemed fine. And I noticed that really late after the train was about to pull out, he jumped off the train really quickly before the doors closed. And I thought I was kind of suspicious because I was like, that guy I haven't seen him around here before. I've been living in the area for about 2-3 years, and it was a really small sort of village area. So you sort of got to know the people around there, you got to know what everyone looked like, sort of thing. So it was really remote, there weren't that many people at all. So yeah, I thought it was really fishy that this new guy just appeared, and I'd seen him at an earlier stop, and he was staring at me kind of funny. So I actually started to think it was a bit strange. So I tried walking home a bit quicker than normal, and that actually didn't work because I was going down a sort of darkened bit, like a sort of alleyway, a sort of secluded area, and it turned out that this kid was gonna mug me for a phone. Basically, at the time he was 16, I was 14, but I did look about 12 because, like I mentioned earlier, because of my height, I do look really young in comparison to what I am. And yeah, he basically tried to have a normal conversation with me. He was like, "Oh, where's the bus station?" or something along those lines, and I tried helping him out, and then out of nowhere he switched and he started threatening me if I didn't give him the phone I was gonna get hurt. So not wanting anything to happen, I just handed over the phone, and then he ran off, and I carried on walking. And luckily for me, my carer's son was driving by, and he saw me, and then he stopped to pick me up and was like, "You're right, you don't look normal." And then I tried putting on a brave face, tried saying yeah I was alright, and then I started crying. He was like, "Oh no, seriously, what's wrong? Obviously everything's not alright, otherwise you wouldn't be as upset as you are." And I told him that I'd been mugged, and he was with his friend, and his friend is huge. He's actually massive. He's really intimidating if you don't know him personally. And anyway, they looked at each other as if they knew because they'd seen a guy running, and they presumed straight away that it was him. So they drove back in the direction they saw him running, and it turned out that it was the same guy, and they caught him just before he was about to run down an alleyway. And what happened next was actually hilarious. It might not sound like it because my commentaries about funny things tend to be really boring, but basically they stopped him before he got down this alleyway. And at first my carer's son just stepped out of the car. He's kind of big, he goes to the gym quite a lot, so he's pretty big. And his friend stepped out of the car behind him, and when this guy saw his friend, he fell over. He was that scared. And then he stood up, and my carer's son started saying, "How many phones you got?" And he replied, "Oh, none, none, none." And he was like, "Empty your pockets out." Guy pulled out 2 phones, so he didn't only have my phone, he had another phone. I'm not sure whether he stole it or what, but he had another phone on him. And my carer son took my phone away from him and then said, "Go over to that van and say, 'You're the king, Dylan, I'm sorry for what I did to you.'" And the guy walked over to the van and he said those exact words to me. And then he got out of the van and walked back over to my carer's son, who then told him to kiss his feet, which he did. He kneeled down and he kissed his feet, because this guy was bricking it at this point. Seeing these 2 guys, like 21 at the time, I think they both were. And then, after kissing his feet, he got him to stand back up, and there was a fence next to where the train station was. So what he got him to do next was run up to the fence and headbutt it. And he was like, "Carry on headbutting it. Keep going." And he headbutted it at least 25 times. The guy came away from the fence. So he had a green mark on his head. And this, like, the guy who mugged me was mixed race. So you can imagine for green to come out on his, like, skin tone, kind of strange. And it looked really weird, but it was so funny to watch. Like, 14 years old in the back of a car, watching a guy who had mugged you like 10 seconds previous headbutting a fence was one of the most hilarious things I'd ever seen in my life. And it actually turned out better for me than it did for him. And the final thing that my carer son said to him was, "If I ever see you around here again, I will break your legs." So yeah, that's my funny story about the time I nearly got mugged. And the gameplay's coming to a close end, as you see the enemy is forced in 10 seconds. So yeah, if you enjoyed this commentary, guys, be sure to leave a like, and I'll try and get more of these out on my channel if possible. As always, links to my Twitch and Twitter will be in the description below. And yeah, A, B, see ya!